Welcome to the Luke Branquinho Show. My next guest is somebody that I've truly admired for the last, let's say, kind of decade or so. He took a champion that is not with us anymore, and he has continued to live with the passion that this champion had. He is the nephew of the late, great Lane Frost. Stetson Frost, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Man, what an intro. Feel
Well,
taller.
yeah. Well, in all honesty, I grew up as a young kid watching Lane ride. Obviously, 8 Seconds, the movie that kind of really showed the story, which it kind of helped push the story about Lane, and then you taking that and keeping his name alive, keeping your family's name alive with such a true champion. Because I know Cody, I know Tough, a lot of guys that rodeoed with Lane and just said what an amazing person he was inside and outside the arena. And in fact, I wanted to model my rodeo career after a guy like Lane, because people aren't going to remember you so much for that, but how you were outside the arena. And that's what I love, what you're continuing to do with Lane's story.
I mean, the brand's built on character. I mean, that's what it boils down to. And our message is hard work. So Lane's the catalyst, and we've kind of promoted this, message of one, we have Bibles, we have a Bible foundation. So we have free Bibles on the website. But the biggest deal is the work ethic, have good character, treat people nice. These are very simple things that are very hard for us to do as humans.
Well, 100%. And you look at society now, it's even harder for some of these. And I don't know. I don't want to say it's how kids are being raised now. I think maybe so, but you're 100% right. It's hard for us in society to be kind, be nice. Driving down the road and I see somebody pulled over, and I'm like, do I want to stop or not? Do I know if they have a gun? They want to kill me, or something like that. And even go further, are they a liberal? Stuff like that. And not even to get political, but
horror movies that start like this. I'm not pulling over.
No, exactly right. I think when people see that, they change their perspective on life. Mm-hmm. What you're doing. And again, props to you. I had admired what you've done, and keep pushing that, keep driving it, because that's what this world needs.
Yep. No, we stood firm through all the hoopla that went down the past few years. And I mean, our message is our message, and we're not going to cater to anyone. If you don't like, being admirable, if you don't like being honest, if you don't like working hard, this is not the brand for you. So
I got to ask, because obviously Lane passed before you knew him, right? So for you to hear the stories and, reading on the website, everybody go out and check out lanefrostbrand.com, I believe what it is, because reading the story, the message you guys are sending is absolutely amazing. And don't forget to get some cool gear. You got the hats and the shirts, which my kids absolutely love. But, to read that story, for you to you had to go out and ask family members. I mean, Clyde and Elsie are amazing, great people. I've got to meet them several times, for them to be able to tell the story, and be able to push that along that's something that takes time, effort, and work.
Yeah. A lot of people look at this brand and they're like, oh, it must, you just make some hats. And I'm like, I mean, if you want to try it, go for it. I'll even open the door for you. But it's, I'm not so much anymore, but first 5-6 years, I'd go to work at 10 a.m. with a toddler while my wife went and was a full-time hygienist. I'd fill orders all day. She would take him, and then I'd fill orders into the night. I'd come in 2-3 in the morning, and did that for almost 5 years. So, people now, people see results. They don't see the work to get to where they're at. You won a lot of gold buckles, and they're like, oh, it must be nice. I'm like, do you realize how many hours he had to tackle steers at home when no one was paying attention? You know what I'm saying? Like, the 100%. Work you have to do it. So people like to judge the results, and they don't respect the journey,
Right, 100%. And I use the iceberg meme. You see the tip of the iceberg, and it's so big, and then underneath is that much that nobody sees. And I use examples like you said. Trevor Brazil is somebody that I've admired too, and his work ethic nobody really seen. He just wins so much. Like, oh, lucky Trevor, or anybody in any event for that matter. If they don't understand the work it takes to do it, and it's not rodeo, it's life. You have to put that in your life to be successful.
Yeah, like you're talking about Trevor and you guys that won a lot of gold buckles. It's it's easy to look at that and be like, oh, must be nice. There, like you said, there is no accident. You don't accidentally win that many buckles. You know what I'm saying? That's the crazy part. People are like, lucky is winning the lottery. That's lucky.
Yep.
But when you go out day in and day out and perform and get the results you want, that's sheer perfection. And all that practice is what made that happen. And nobody wants to think y'all guys go home and go out and, sweat in an arena for 10 hours on a Saturday. No one believes that,
Right.
They're watching football like everybody else, and they're wondering why they don't have gold buckles. So
no, that's true. I've always said they asked what was the hardest buckle to win, and was it the first one? I said no, it wasn't the first one. It was the ones after that, because it's almost like you're expected to keep winning, and a lot of people can't rise to that occasion and can't handle that pressure. And for me, it was okay. I won one. Now I'm going to the next year like I'd have not won one. That's how you have to go about it. And it could really get into your mind, and it could be a mental block for you, and going back to the basics, going back to the arena and pushing through that and finishing those runs. And like you said, people don't see what we do in the arena. They don't see the Saturdays, the Sundays. Labor Day, we were working, and if we could have practiced, we would have been practicing. There's no holidays, there's no breaks in rodeo. And in what you're doing with what you're building, there's no breaks. It's your mind's always working if your body's not.
Yep. And it's something I've had to learn to take in stride, because my kids, I really want to be my husband first and a father. And I really try to shut this off at a certain time every night and go do that.
Right.
Really important to me. So it's hard, man. And it's, a normal person, a normal Joe, he's stressing out and anxious about going and asking for a raise. It's like, okay, it's 10th round the NFR. You're $27,000 out from winning first place, and you're the villain, and there's 50,000 people there. Well, 20,000, because Thomas Mack's pretty small. But there's 20,000 people there, and they're all rooting for you to buck off. Like, right. How does that correlate on the stress levels of asking for a raise? You know what I'm saying? So I think people really need to take a step back and put themselves in other shoes and realize, dang, that guy's putting in 200 hours a week, and I'm over here grinding about 32,
It's crazy you say that, because as well, just from the stories and everything, rodeo is such a selfish sport if you want to be the best. And I've told my wife, I've apologized multiple times, because I didn't realize how selfish of a sport it was until I stepped back and realized what it took for me to achieve what I achieved. Now, with that being said, she was right there behind me, pushing me. I say behind me, she was alongside me, pushing me to be my best. But there was times where I could have came home for a couple of days, but I stayed out there because I wanted to go win that gold buckle. And a lot of people don't realize just how selfish you have to be successful. So now I'm trying to transition, and it's a hard transition from 20 years of the selfishness that I, had to, okay, now instead of working all day and trying to get stuff done here, I need to take a break, go spend time with the kids, go practice with them, go to football games, where there's still a part of me that goes, no, I need to get this done, that selfish part of me. So I'm glad to know that, it's something that a lot of people deal with on different levels in their lives, but it's still tough, man. It honestly is tough for me.
No, I couldn't imagine. I mean, especially y'all competitors, because you have to turn it off at some point. You have to turn it off, or find, like JB, he got to transition to coaching, so he had to turn it off physically for himself, but now he gets to live through getting hyped up for his team and things like that. So, there's transitions to keep that going, but not for everybody. Not everybody gets that chance. Look at the NFL and other sports. Commentating is the dream after you retire. That's the gravy. That's where you want to get. And, they take 2 guys, and probably, 400 guys retire a year. So it's a very limited group that gets to continue in the profession past their heyday. And then just like that, with you now, I mean, your time, not that you can't still be successful in your own ways and do your own things, but now, your focus, your sport now is being a good father. That's, now it's time to bleed all these credentials and things over to your sons, so it's a cool place to be in if you want it. That's something, talking about men, something I've been passionate about here lately is kind of giving attaboys and trying to,
right.
Men don't brag on men very often. My wife, she'll meet a stranger and they'll stop each other. Nice shoes, nice shirt. I'm like, what the? You see a guy, they're like, he's 30. good luck out there, man. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's our mindset. So I feel like we don't nurture each other as much as we should. And that's not people now are talking, being passive and pussified world now. It's not that. Men need, we have hearts too. We cry too. We have bad days too, you know what I mean? So sucking it up all the time is hard. And, guys on a pedestal like y'all, even if you're having a bad day, you got to pretend,
Yeah. Well, we got to go to break right now. When we come back, I want to talk more with Stetson Frost about that pedestal and how to stay up there. Stetson, we'll be back in a few. Welcome back to the Luke Branquinho Show. My guest, Stetson Frost. Stetson, we were talking about kind of that pedestal of where champions are, and people are always wanting to knock you off of it. And like for me, so retirement, it was hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I had to try to find something to replace steer wrestling. I thought when I retired, I was done with it for a while. Well, my oldest son decided he wanted to start steer wrestling. So I had to get another horse, a Hayes horse, and get back into it, obviously build an arena. But lifting weights has kind of replaced that for me. I try to go to the gym, 3 to 5 times a week. I got a great trainer, Kate Coward. She's awesome. She helped me get into the shape I'm in now, which is better than when I was rodeoing. Which is amazing. I didn't think I was in that bad of shape until I look at myself in the mirror now. But, you'll
be okay.
So I did make a bet with my son. He wants me to jump another steer. I don't know that my body could hold up to it. But that pedestal, getting knocked off it, figuring out what the next step in life is. And that's what I had to do for me. And, you take guys like JB, and you mentioned him going to coaching. If that wasn't there, what was JB going to do? Put on bull riding clinics? He's not really into that. I've even asked him. I've had people reach out. So finding the next step in the next phase in your life is important.
No, it really is. And that's why I'm a serial entrepreneur, I guess. I can't stop. I keep putting myself in situations. I tell my wife all the time, I got to stop. I got plenty of things to do. I don't need to be adding anything to my plate.
Right.
Next week I'll go find something else to add. But it's hard, but you got to figure out what drives you, and you got to keep that drive around. Even if you have to retire, you got to figure out a new way to keep that going.
Well, and you hear stories about NFL players or Major League, any professional sport, they retire. You don't hear from them. And the sad part is they got paid enough where they may, hopefully I'm hoping that they're well off, but a lot of them kind of do that downward spiral. I sat next to on a plane with a guy, and I can't remember his name. He was a kicker for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was retired, but his job was to take these retired athletes and push them down another path, the right path, don't let them spiral downward. And he said it's amazing how many guys and he obviously didn't name any names, but had so much success in their career. Now they're living out of cars, they're just, they've blown everything. They didn't know what to do with their life. And I think finding that path it's huge. And sounds like you're always busy. You said you had 3 or 4 other projects you got going on now too. So, like I said, dad first. So I've got 3 kids, 6, 3, and be 2 this month. That daughter, that youngest one, that's a mom. Anyways, so yeah, I got the kids, the wife. Those are most important. So my tiers, I work second. Even every day, I'm always like, all right, babe, I got to at least get 20 hours, 30 hours in this week if I can. Not that I'm not getting it in, but actual grinding it out time, paperwork. I'm reading contracts this thick every day, stuff like that. Yeah, so that's just the personal side. And on the business side, we got LF. We got Cowboy Hustle. We're inserting into LF. So it's its own kind of brand, but it's part of LF. And then we have a whole complete side project called Western Hustle. So it's really broad. And then we have an Airbnb. I'm building a house. I'm GCing my house. I just, like I said, I just keep tripping into another hole of staying busy all the time. So, but it's just in my DNA. That's just who I am. And I've been through Aoka several times. I've stayed. A good buddy of mine, Tyler Pearson, lives there. It seems like Atoka's kind of growing, expanding. Obviously, Reba McEntire has her new restaurant there, and you feel with the Airbnb and everything going on that is Atoka's growing in a positive way and spreading out.
Yeah, Atoka's growing. It's still a drive-through town. I kind of preach that you got to have at least 48 hours worth of stuff to keep kind of people contained.
Right.
You don't you don't want vacationers or travelers stopping to eat and then just leaving after. I mean, literally, there's 2 hours worth of true activities here, and that's food. So I'm hoping we get some events, some things to do, some axe throwing, something. We need some entertainment to work off these calories. We're getting a marble slab in a cookie store. Like, we need those.
Oh, man.
I mean, but it's growing. Highway 69 is blowing up. We've got a Starbucks now, and for a town this small to have a Starbucks, that's kind of crazy. But no, Reba's has really kind of put it on the map. They took an old Masonic Lodge, it's 3 stories high. It's so cool, the whole building. I don't know. Have y'all been there to eat yet?
I haven't, but I've heard it's pretty amazing.
You bring the wife. It's a cool spot. And then my wife's parents, they actually own a Mexican restaurant here, and it's been in business 50 years. So
which one is that?
It's called El Adobe. You probably been there with Tyler, but it's on the highway by the grocery store, and it's cool. The building was the first Catholic church in Indian Territory, so it's got some historical value to it. And
I'm trying to think, is Stephen's Special on the menu of that one?
No, that's a different place. But
okay, yeah.
But so there's that. There's some history here, and of course you got Lane from here. You got Reba from here. We got a WNBA player that's in the Hall of Fame, Crystal Robinson. She's from here. U.O. Washington played professional baseball for 20 years and was a scout for 20 years. He's from here. So small town, got some big people that have come out of it. But no, it's growing, and it's cool to see because I got kids, so I want to see my town fruition. Like I said, I'm building a house, so I'm really planting myself here, and I want to make sure that the area around me is positive and a good place for my kids. So.
Well, we talked about being general our own GCs. I'm doing it on the arena. I thought I'd have saved money by paying somebody to do it, and then just being able to go practice instead of driving back and forth Stephenville here or there just in fuel. But is that something you'd done before? Or I don't know anything about building a house or general contracting. How do you educate yourself in that? So
there's a few pages that will break it down, how to build a house, stuff like that. And I've built a lot of rapport. So we built the warehouse two and a half years ago, and I was super involved with it. And then we built the Airbnb and pretty much use the same crews for the most part on it. So I got a lot of rapport with these guys, and they're all great. Kind of whatever step you're on, talk to them. Hey, who's the best 3 suggestions you have for the next job? Blah blah blah. You just kind of keep in the loop. The hardest part though is just you're a glorified babysitter. You really are. You're communicating back and forth, making sure concrete and plumbing are on the same page. And then, all right, we're about to start framing. Y'all good? Yeah, we're good. And then, well, I didn't do this. Well, let's do that first. Like I'm giving you windows, trying to get electrical in that as many times as possible right before sheetrock. Once sheetrock's like that final seal of we can't go back in the walls, So
right.
Really make sure everybody's on point and got their stuff done. So we just finished ductwork, just got spray foam. Sheetrock's supposed to start in 10 days. Had to order sheetrock out of Oklahoma City. So it's just a process, but I'm doing it slow for the fact we're doing things, uniquely. Like we did a storm cellar in the floor in the garage. So it's nice. Slide. So you just walk down into the concrete, and then did a full filtration system. So when the water hits the house, it's fully filtered before it even gets to the hot water tank. So all spigots, everything have filtered water. We're big into music and movies, so we had we had a company come down from Oklahoma City, run full surround sound. So it's taken longer, but I'm trying to make it turnkey for me, not right. No one else. So that's the thing, that's when you go in a house and you're like, why'd they do that? I see why now. They built their house. They didn't build a house for you to buy it in 20 years. They built their house. So, but yeah, no, it's a trip in itself, but you just got to stay on top of it like anything else. It's what I do. I mean, I'm ordering, putting out fires, all kinds of, it's the same situation, but it's transition to building a home.
So with the 3 kids, and we talked about this earlier before we started filming, but but for me, it's right now we're in football season. Different practice schedules going, you're going that way, your wife's going that way, and oh wait, we need somebody to go that way, but we don't have enough people. Yeah. Fortunately for me, my folks moved to Texas with us, so it makes it nice to be able to have them around. But I mean, for you to be able to deal with everything you're doing, and I know the kids are playing sports, like I said, they're baseball in it, and now jiu-jitsu, right, is what you were saying with your oldest?
Yeah, so my oldest got into that. I'm a big UFC fan, and we watch him a lot, and he's always just wanting to wrestle on the floor and stuff, and just the discipline and everything that comes with it. I just it can't hurt, Right. So he's been in it now 2 months almost. We go to Durant. It's called Empire Jiu-Jitsu. Great coach. He's a competitor too. You can just they've got their systems down. You know what I mean? Like you can tell they're there to win, and they're trying to train people to win. So that's where I want my boy at. And it's one of those things. It's consistent. It's not seasonal. So I'm hoping he takes to this, and we have, I feel like I wish I would have done it more. So when you're young, you kind of create your habits, and all your ticks and things that you enjoy. And I'm hoping I can get my boys into fitness consistently at some level. That's what I told my wife. I don't care if they play sports. I really don't. I'm a big sports guy, but I don't care. But they are going, if they're not playing sports, they're still working out an hour a day. They got to pick. They're not getting away from sweat equity. They're not getting away from it. It's just what form do you want? We bought my oldest a video game, first video game he's ever had, like a console. Didn't know internet. It's when I was old school. It's got a flash drive. It's got all the old Nintendo games. And he's like, can I play it? And I said, you can. But here's the deal. Every time you play it, for 1 hour play, you got to work out for 30 minutes. And everybody thought I was crazy. And, my 6-year-old can do more push-ups than most grown men now. So it worked. And he knows if he wants to play, he goes in there, he gets on the row. I mean, he starts working out instantly if he wants to play that game. And so just trying to figure out, and you got to figure out to a kid's been. Some kids, they're real stubborn and nothing phases them. And then you got other kids that you look at them wrong and they start crying. So you kind of got to figure out how your kid works before you can work them.
For sure. Well, when we come back, I want to talk more about Rodeo Cowboys and work ethic and what it takes to be the best and how you guys go and support Rodeo Team. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we'll be back with Stetson Frost. Welcome back to the Luke Branquinho Show. I have Stetson Frost with me, owner and the main man behind Lane Frost brand. Stetson, thank you again for joining me. We talked about work ethic, Cowboys. You guys, your brand is huge in supporting the college there for pushing these rodeo athletes and kind of helping them get up and down the road.
Yeah, so last year, someone from OSU came down and we got to talking and kind of saw that there was a need for the rodeo program to have some help. And I just thought it'd be really cool to kind of hitch our trailer to a college rodeo program and get real serious with it. So we actually, me and Chris from 100X, known him a long time, hit him up and said, hey, I want to do something special for these boys and make them look real professional. So we just recently wrapped, actually, let me grab it for you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, love to see it. We
just wrapped all these helmets.
Oh, wow.
And it's really cool. They look like football helmets. I mean, how wrapped them out. And Chris, being an old football coach, obviously he got super excited. So this is what the Oklahoma State rodeo team's rolling around in, the bull riders. And I just wanted to kind of just give them some eliteness looking,
right.
What is it? Dress sharp, feel sharp, ride sharp, kind of the whole mystique of that. And college is getting so competitive these days now with NILs and everything. It's not necessarily the college or the program that's going to do you the best. It's the college or the program that's going to pay the most and get you the most exposure. Right. That's what it's to. So we thought, okay, we're with this program. How do we beef it up? So let's get matching helmets. Hopefully long term we can get into chaps. I was talking to the barrel girls and all the timed event stuff, and I said, now it's a little harder to throw stuff on y'all. So we got to get creative, and we're trying to figure all that out because they're real strict. The actual, all the colleges, they wear little vests with their logos. Yep. Can't be on that, but we're on the shirts, we're on the hats, we're on the helmets. So we got a really good collaboration there. And we went into it just going to sponsor rodeo. And I realized it kind of handcuffed me. I still couldn't do anything through the university. So I went a step further. I reached out, said, hey, I want to talk to whoever's over marketing. So got to them. We did a deal through CLC. It's basically to have a license with the college. So now we can do Oklahoma State, Pistol Pete hats. We have the rodeo program. We're working with David Taylor from the wrestling program, trying to have a sponsorship there. And then we had a really good conversation with football. We're going to be doing a few things with the Oklahoma State offensive lineman, which is kind of cool. So we're just trying to ingrain ourselves there. We're super excited about it. Obviously, our end's the rodeo program, and then we're working our way further. They got a big 3-day event coming up here in Durant at the Southeastern campus end of this month. We're super excited because it's 30 minutes from us. So we're going to get some content. I'm going to have Clyde Nelson come out and say hi. And my boy Trey Holston, I'm going to try to have him come out. Yeah. Well,
I mean, and talking about what athletes get, and we're talking football, baseball, basketball athletes, and I'm talking not just men, women's sports in college. They, they don't have to pay for fuel going up and down the road. They don't have to feed. We talked about they get fed meals and prepared by chefs. You know, at Rodeo Cowboys, you pay your fuel, you get in the truck, you drive. You know, what would those athletes do if they had to do that? They'd be like, I don't know what to do with my hands type deal. You know what I mean?
Where, I mean, it's like getting thrown to the wolves, you know, especially, you know, and like you said, you know, I feel like it's true. When you're groomed a certain way, that's just how you are. You know, and the rodeo athletes, when they're young, they got to get your own rigging bag, get your stuff together, feed your horse, you know, all these chores and stuff add up to, you know, then, okay, now it's time to compete. Now we got to travel. Right. You know, you can't just rodeo outside the house every day. And I think, you know, we talked with some of the wrestlers, and they didn't even realize it because rodeo is a program. It's considered a club. It's not considered a collegiate sport. So they don't get any of the big money from the big endorsees, sports company endorsees. And, but yeah, no, I mean, and I'm not knocking them. They've earned it. They've worked their way.
Exactly.
But on the rodeo side, it's, you know, it's a little tougher because you're there on a scholarship, but you're still having to pay the thousands of dollars a year to feed your horse, the thousands of dollars in fuel to get from A to B. You know, my running joke is kind of like, you know, give a football player or a basketball player, tell them, say, hey, all right, now you got to drive from Oklahoma to Chicago. Good luck. See you there. Like, I don't see it happening. You know what I mean? So it's interesting.
No, and it won't ever happen just because of how, you know, sports has evolved from even high school, you know, the way these high school athletes at these bigger schools are getting, and we call it groomed, how they're treated. And again, they've worked their butts off. They've earned that right. And I guess it builds character as far as I'm concerned for a rodeo athlete, you know, hard work at a young age and responsibility. And we talk about, you know, some of those athletes that have retired that had successful careers but don't know what to do afterwards because the responsibility that the rodeo athlete had getting to that point was greater, in my opinion. Now, I mean, everybody has their own opinion, but a greater responsibility to get there. And it wasn't not necessarily handed to them, but they didn't have somebody handing them things. They had to go work and grab it themselves.
Yep. And, you know, like like a running back, you see him run on Friday night and you're like, oh, he just runs on Friday night. No. Yeah. He probably ran 7 miles this week in practice with pads on with dudes trying to kill him. Like, you know, so there, you know, there's a whole misconception of what we see and what's really going on. And that's the same thing with the rodeo athletes and stuff, you know, the hours put in the arena and the practice arena by yourself, you know. Rodeo, like you said, it's not really a team sport. So, you know, nowadays they're getting into team stuff, but naturally, like you said, it's a selfish sport, but it's a lonely sport. You know, you know, the most elite are probably the loneliest guys out there, you know, because you have to sacrifice to be good at something. So sacrificing is not hanging out with your buddies every night. It's not running around. It's probably missing FaceTime and home time with your wife and your kids. And so, you know, it's just different. You know, anybody elite in any sport has had to sacrifice so much. But on the college level to see that, even on the pro, I mean, the pros, you know, again, they don't have team buses. They don't have team airplanes, you know, taking from event to event. So it's just a different breed of athlete.
Well, I know, just speaking of elite athletes in rodeo, Lane Frost brand has your logo and likeness on a lot of them. And obviously Josh Frost, a relative of yours, is one, and so many others. And to me, it's great to see not only that, but you also try to go out and get some of the younger up and comers and give them an opportunity. And that's huge. I mean, you take a big company and they only want the best. That's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But for you guys to go out and start promoting the young guys, the up and comers, the future stars, that's big for the sport. That's big for you guys, but it's just that much better for them.
Oh yeah, and it's kind of hard right now because I've kind of aged out of keeping up as much because I have so many my kids and I'm busy with them. Most of my youth bull riders now have aged up to 18, 20 years old, you know, which is crazy. I had them when they were 8, 9, 10, you know. So we got to get some younger blood back in here. But it's funny, you know. Yeah, we have elite athletes now. But everybody we started with, they sucked when we picked them up. I mean, I'll just be real honest. Like, you know, Josh was trying to figure out if he wanted to be a bull rider. And, you know, his first NFR went 0 for 10. Not that he sucked like he was bad. It's just he isn't where he's at. You know, and getting that result, people are like, oh, of course he's with Josh, you know, because he's the best. 5 years ago, I was with Josh because I love Josh and he's my cousin. I wasn't with Josh just because he's Josh Frost. Now he's Josh Frost. Yep. So it's just kind of cool that I love what you said there. It's like everybody does want the best, but I didn't start with the best.
Yeah.
I worked with the boys when no one cared about them, and now everybody cares about most of them because, thank God, fruition. All my athletes turn into studs, and that was just by happenstance.
I was just totally out of wrap, but I got one more question, and it is about Cassio Diaz wearing Lane Frost chaps at the PBR World Finals to win his first championship. I mean, how cool was that?
Oh, it's so cool. And honestly, I didn't know it was happening until it happened. And I was like, oh my gosh. So people started blowing us up, messaging us and stuff, and then we saw it. And Cassio was a huge Lane Frost fan. I don't think people get it. Like every time he covers, he's doing Lane's Wave. He set us up for sponsorship, and I'm like, let's do something. But that language barrier. So I'm gonna have to hit up one of his buddies or something that speaks English, and we can get this figured out.
Well, that was probably one of the coolest things I've seen was Cassio doing Lane's Wave in Lane's chaps, winning a championship. Stetson Frost, Lane Frost brand. You guys check it out. It's so simple, lanefrostbrand.com. Get on there, check out the story, get some cool gear, and know that you're supporting a company that supports 100% Western athletes. Stetson, thank you again for joining us, man. It's been a true honor because I really admire what you're doing with your family name and what you're doing with the Cowboys.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And you guys make sure stay tuned for the next Luke Branquinho Show. It's going to be a great one.